I guess what I'm trying to say is that lately I've just been trying to perform this, this juggling act, and I've been really struggling to power through. I think as a creator, I try to put out things that, that I try to tell myself. I know some authors write books with insights, that they themselves are also trying to overcome. So in that sense, I guess this is the message that I'm trying to tell myself right now. In some ways, I feel like busyness has become this badge of honor and like this marker of self-worth in our society. I think a lot of us subscribe to this, to this go mentality where we're always trying to achieve something, always trying to set a goal. And then when that's done, trying to set new goals, right? And then in the process, I feel like we tend to overwork ourselves. I get it, right? Time is valuable and it's something that we can't take back. So we try to spend it on things that matter. So we fill our schedules up, and we try to keep ourselves busy until we realize that, that being busy doesn't always mean being productive. Of course, it's a great thing to want to succeed, right? And I think it's very important to be effective and to have a good work ethic. But the problem is, I feel like along the way, we tend to forget to tune into what our bodies are trying to tell us. Just like our phones, our bodies also need to recharge on a regular basis, right? But somehow we've convinced ourselves that we just don't have the time for it. All that stress and pressure accumulate by the minute, and at one point, it's bound to catch up on us. The tension that we're holding right now didn't come from, the stress of just a few minutes ago, right? These are all like, a result of the stress that we've accumulated over the last few hours, the last few days, or sometimes even longer. And before we know it, our resources have been drained, our immune systems shut down, and we've burned out. So if we want to sustain our energy and, and stay in the game, then we have to be able to constantly release that tension. When I get a burst of inspiration, I get so fired up, right? And suddenly I feel like I have all this energy. It's almost like a rush, right? To take on new projects and put all of my ideas into play. And then I start committing myself to one thing and then another without really thoroughly assessing what it would entail or if I even have the time for it. So I end up overcommitting and overscheduling myself. And this, no fail, always leads me to feeling overwhelmed and eventually burnout. I know a lot of us don't have the luxury of choice in terms of, how much work we can take on. And the thought alone of the piles of work, right, that's waiting for us to finish can already be so exhausting. I have 2 kids who still need a lot of assistance with distance learning. I have my studies. Like I said, I'm currently enrolled in this life and leadership coaching certification program for a year. And then I have my work, I have my YouTube, I have my other responsibilities, and I'm often left wondering, how can I do all of this? So lately, what's been working for me is, to make a list and kind of get a clearer picture of everything that I need to accomplish in terms of what my top priorities are and what needs my immediate attention. I organize them based on, the urgency and the priority given the goal and the results that I want. Writing them down helps me, reassess my tasks, and at the same time, it also gives me, that sense of direction. Of course, this would mean that some of the things that I want to do will have to wait, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm completely giving up on those plans. It's just prioritizing what needs to be done based on my current goals, and then I can always come back to the others once my existing projects have been completed. Doing this can help us set our boundaries, it can help us align ourselves with our goals, and at the same time, I think it can also help us keep our precious energy instead of just, randomly saying yes to every great idea that comes. And then it becomes less about, squeezing in as many tasks as we can in one day, and more about, just identifying which ones matter more and then effectively working on them. So think about the last time that you had to work all day and all night with very minimal breaks. And then try to remember how you felt after that. It's very likely that, you felt irritable, you were stressed, and chances are it was difficult for you to feel like, you were at the top of your game. That was literally me like just 3 days ago. The next practice that I find So the next practice that I find works really well for me is, doing timed work sprints and taking 20-minute breaks in between. There are already so many studies that show that our brain can only focus for about 90 to 120 minutes at a time. So when I do my work sprint, what I usually do is I set a timer for about 1 hour, and then in that productive work sprint, I focus only on one task and I avoid all distractions. So which means no phones, no gadgets, nothing like that to distract me. For 1 whole hour, it's just me and that specific task. This practice is somehow connected to the idea of sharpening the saw. In the book, The 7 Habits of Effective People, the author mentioned that one of the habits of effective people is that they take the time for self-care, and he called this sharpening the saw. He shared a story about this young lumberjack who was very strong and very diligent about cutting down trees day in and day out. But eventually he became ineffective at his job because he didn't take the time to sharpen his saw, which made it very dull. If you're not taking the time to step back and recharge, then it's going to be very difficult for you to sustain your energy and your productivity. So if you find yourself having a hard time pulling away from work and giving yourself that break, just think about sharpening yourself for a minute. And if you want your tool to last long, you have to take care of it. Which brings me to my next practice, which is making time for the things that you love. I'm sure there's something that you've been wanting to do for a while now, but just never had the time for, right? I don't know, like learning a new instrument, cooking, painting, right? Something that doesn't require you to be good at, but just gives you a lot of joy, right? Find a hobby. My well-being coach would always tell me that, the more your workload increases, the more your self-care should also increase. As your commitments level up, so should your self-care. And I think it's true because, in the sense, our responsibilities somehow take out a lot from us, right? So we always have to find time to kind of, replenish and fill ourselves up again. Hobbies are wonderful stress relievers. It's a great way to fill up our cups, and it encourages us to unplug, and step away from work. So before you start your day, ask yourself, right? Like, what's that one thing that I can do to make myself happy today? And then make time for it. We spend a big part of our days doing things for our career or being there for other people, right? If we can do that, then we should also be able to carve out time to be there for ourselves, right? Our hobbies can also provide a slice of calm and, responsibility-free time, which can also be a good idea for people who are feeling overwhelmed, or the people who feel the need for an outlet to recharge and do something without the pressure of work or any deadline. I personally find that having hobbies that match different energies can come in quite handy. When I'm feeling all worked up and I feel like I need to release a lot of tension, then a nice run or playing tennis or swimming I find helps me sort of bring me back to my baseline. When I'm feeling drained or low, I read a book, or I like to color, or I like to organize my photos and kind of like lay them out in an album. This somehow puts my mind at ease, and at the same time, it gives me that sense of joy and fulfillment. Obviously, there's no right or wrong hobby, but I guess the idea is really just to find something that you really truly enjoy. So contrary to what we think when we're in the zone, overworking ourselves doesn't really help propel us forward. If anything, it just sets us back. And it took me a while to realize this because for a time, I was always sick. My immune system was very low, and I was always so snappy with my kids and with the people around me. And really, it didn't feel great. I was so off-centered, and it really manifested in many parts of my life. Taking care of that space between rest and exhaustion is so crucial. You know how athletes have their off-season where they take a break and recharge for a few months, and then they come back to the game stronger and in a much better headspace? Life is about balance, right? It's not about swinging from one activity to the next. I remember there's this one article I read about this startup CEO whose business was really booming, right? Everything was going well. And shortly after he launched, he took off for the beach for vacation. And of course, people started asking him, things are going well. Why are you leaving? Why are you going on vacation? And then he just answered, things are going great because I go on vacations, right? Because I take the time to recharge and recalibrate. I know not a lot of people can just take off and go on vacations, right? Especially now. But something as simple as catching up on some much needed sleep can really make a big difference in your vibrance and in your productivity. There's nothing wrong with resting. So many studies already suggest that lack of sleep and burnout pretty much go hand in hand. It makes us less creative, it weakens our focus, and people who lack sleep are more likely to commit errors and miss important information. Sleep supports nearly every system in our body, right? It's very vital for our immune system, for our ability to think clearly, and it also plays a big part in managing our mood and our emotions. If you find that you're having a hard time managing your mood and your emotions, you can also, talk to someone to help you process your thoughts. It can be a friend, a therapist, a life coach, or any professional who could offer you different perspectives and kind of assist you in creating balance in your life. There's no shame in asking for assistance, right? You don't have to wait until you've completely burned out until you start reassessing your habits. There's now a lot of digital well-being apps and programs that are reshaping the traditional experience of therapy. Consulta is one of them. It's a mobile app that helps you connect and consult with a roster of licensed psychologists and doctors from different fields. There's also this app called Mind Nation, which is more centered on mental health. They also have licensed psychologists and well-being coaches who can help you from the comforts of your own home. There are many ways to do it, and I love that these programs are destigmatizing the need for professional help, normalizing the process, right, for people to approach mental health and seeking help more as a preventive rather than, as a fix. So that being said, there are always signs in our mind and in our body when it's time to recharge. And it's really our job to pay attention and tune into those signs. And for us to remain inspired, we need to be able to allow ourselves some downtime, right? So that we can reset and we can get back to our tasks with a renewed sense of efficiency. When we're relaxed or when we're rested, that's usually when inspirations or solutions come to us. The most productive people are not the ones who are overworked, right? They're the ones who have a healthy work-life balance. We tend to think better when we're well rested. And when we feel good about ourselves, we make better decisions. We have better relationships, we feel more patient, and generally we just feel lighter. So there you have it. Those are some of the things that I do to try to beat the burnout. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Like always, I hope that you guys could share some of your techniques. I welcome you guys to share your own practices too, on how you try to keep a healthy work-life balance. I'm sure other people will also be benefiting from your experiences too. If you found some of the tips helpful, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!